Hello and welcome to the GreenStream, a podcast brought to you by Sustainable Business Network Detroit, a network of partnerships between Southeast Michigan stakeholders, innovators, and changemakers. Each partner is on a mission to advance and amplify sustainable business practices, and we're here to learn from, share, and help activate a sustainable way forward for Greater Detroit. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Leave us a review and join the conversation on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And head over to our website, sbn-detroit.org. Now, let's listen in to our conversation with today's sustainability leaders.
Well, hello and welcome to the GreenStream, and thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Terry Barclay, President and CEO of Inforum and Chair of the Sustainable Business Network of Detroit. And I am just really thrilled that our guest today is John Satkowski. And I want to make sure I get your title right because it has a lot of things in it, John, that I hope you're going to tell us about. John is Vice President, Financial Facilities, IT, and Auxiliary Services at Henry Ford College. So, John, tell us about your work and how you came to do it.
Well, I'll go back a little ways. I've been at Henry Ford for about 11 years now and didn't plan on it, planned to retire before that, but ran into the president and the human resource director who I knew in a prior employ and just talked me into coming in. And I figured, okay, 5 years, that'll be a good ending. Well, here it's year 11, just because there's so many different things taking place at Henry Ford, new president and so on. But my background is primarily accounting, finance. I do have a law degree from University of Toledo, master's degree in accounting from University of Toledo, and undergraduate from I love to say this to my Ohio State friends, the University of Michigan. So.
Rose Bowl winners. Hey.
All right, national championship winners. Boy, I like it. I live so close to Toledo. I'm only 6 miles from Toledo, so it feels good right now. Anyway, from my background standpoint, I did this type of work with energy prior to the other community college I was at in Ohio. And it came about through state legislation is what it did. I started at this community college, talked to some of the other CFOs from colleges within the state, and the state of Ohio had put forth that all public institutions would reduce their energy consumption by 30% by the year 2013. And this was in 2008 when this first started. So we did a smaller project at Owens, about a $9 million project. Payback was over 8 years, and the implementation team had to guarantee that we would see those savings. Otherwise, if we didn't meet those targets, they had to write us a check for the difference for that particular issue. Same thing here at Henry Ford. When I came to Henry Ford here in 2013, campus is dated. We all know that the campus has been around for over 100 years, over 80 years now. But there were significant things that we needed to do where energy was a major issue. So I brought the same consultant that I used when I was in Toledo to come in, take a look at all of our buildings, put the plan together, and then we would issue it as a request for proposal to the major companies out there. What we ended up doing was putting that proposal together, and Johnson Controls was the successful bidder. We had a price tag on it at that point. What can we do for $23 million? We had the definition, the mechanical issues, the roofs, centralized heating. It was a complete approach to the campus, not just the kind of work that Johnson Controls had done before, have always done, and that is, well, if you change these lights, you're going to have X amount of energy savings, and we'll guarantee you that. This was a campus-wide project. So we had people through our consultant, I'll mention his name, Peter Garforth, with contacts in Europe. I knew Peter because he used to work at Owens Corning Fiberglass in Toledo and went on his own and designing buildings for energy efficiency. He did that kind of work for Owens Corning when he was in Europe, but I don't want to digress too far on that. So we became friends on this, and he identified key global companies that deal with this in Europe, very little in Canada, hardly any in the US. Two of those groups were Bauman, the Bauman Group, and the other one was Danfoss, Danfoss, dealing with controls. We tore our campus apart 4 years ago. We dug trenches. We put state-of-the-art piping into those various trenches so that we could centralize the operations of the campus. Ironically, I saw that kind of piping when I was in Iceland 2 years ago on a tour that we were there. And I said to my wife, look at how this piping is being used for transferring energy here in Iceland. She says, only you could be the one to be excited about pipe, for crying out loud. So that is a complete work of the campus to get us to where we're at today. Our investment has gone up to a little over 27 million. But again, Johnson Controls had to give us a performance contract to guarantee the $23 million being returned through energy savings with an 8% rate of return through 2035 is the ended up work. So our work isn't done, but a substantial amount of it has been done at this point.
Wow. That's incredible. So help us understand. I mean, you've done such a great job describing kind of the scale and the scope and the comprehensiveness of that approach. How is that impacting the campus today? I mean, how's that impacted the experience of people who are there?
A couple of things. It has totally changed the training method for all of our maintenance custodian folks. That with the new equipment, the new control units that are in place, they are getting the complete training through Johnson Controls and the vendors for that work. But what I didn't mention so far is this was not just about energy savings. It was about energy savings and curriculum, because the key thing with the curriculum is what comes first, the chicken or the egg, as people say. Do we train workers to do this kind of work, or or is the work there and then the industry asks for these folks with these kind of resources? So the equal part to this was the curriculum. Johnson Controls, a third party, dealing with us to develop that curriculum for students to understand the controls, the AV equipment, the cogen units, and I'll get a little bit more onto the cogen units a little bit later. But that is being done with our curriculum. We do have 2 federal grants from Representative Debbie Dingell for this training. And we also have another grant from Senator Stabenow, which deals with the training and also deals with expanding our PV array system with that. So the curriculum is as important as the energy savings, but the money from the federal government is what's being used to develop that curriculum. It's not totally new, but you may take, I'll use an example that we may have like an electrical course within our engineering, 2-year engineering program. They will supplement that with some deliverable outcomes related to the energy field of what we're doing now, what Johnson Control needs when it comes to employees for certain jobs that they have, and for the entire industry. So it's in process right now. We have the seed money for doing that, and that's my counterpart on the academic side has been working with us contiguously for that.
That is just fabulous. What a great idea. to connect the work that you're doing on the physical plant and infrastructure with curriculum, just brilliant, because that's what's happening out in the real world. Are you seeing big demand are the students seeing big demand for those skills? And, how do you see that future?
It's like I say, it's in the development is what it is. Another piece of it too is uh, battery technology that
Mm.
flows right into this as well, whereby we're working in one of our areas to take a, an old welding lab, if you will, and convert it to a battery technology development. I don't say program area, how we can describe it, but give the students the understanding of what it takes to make these kind of decisions, make these kind of batteries. How are they maintained? We do have a number of vehicles in our Ford Asset program and our other areas where battery technology is being reviewed, and it's part of the
Mm.
Ford Asset curriculum as well. So energy wise, we not only look at building itself, but our buildings and our transfer of energy, but also the future in terms of the I'll call it the EV lab, if you want to call it that. And it's not just a very simple method of developing an EV lab. Uh, I haven't seen it myself, but I've heard about how difficult it could be. It has to have significant safety standards associated with it. But again, it's being funded off of not one of the grants I mentioned, but off of another grant with the Balmer Group. So
Mm.
that's another piece associated with it. And our uh, students are seeing, what's being developed, but are we to the point yet of where there are, say, the degrees and certificates being earned yet at this point? Not quite at this point.
Hmm. Hmm. But the vision is there, and the plan
Yes.
is there, and the funding is there. So I'm sure that
Yes.
that's on its way and coming. John, you've got a lot on your plate here. How do you think about an approach? You've been talking about this a little bit, but is there anything else you want to say about how you see the sustainability initiative, and how you manage that? You had referenced the skill
Mhm.
sets that you needed to build on your staff team, for example. Are there other things?
We're going to continue. It's like I say, it's a continuous process. It's not like, oh, we're done at this point. There are a number of things that are, I'd say, sequenced out in the coming years. I'll give you an example. Air handlers, for example. There are so many air handlers that we have on the campus. We couldn't do them all at one time. We couldn't afford to do it all at one time. So those are in the process of being replaced over the next 10 years. But one of the benefits, if there are, you want to say it's a benefit from COVID,
I
was
was
that
just going to ask you about that.
the college was, it was closed down, but there was federal monies through CARES packages, through HERF is what they call it for students, for campuses to do things to deal with COVID. And we got pre-approval through the federal government to accelerate the replacement of our air handlers using the argument that classrooms would be cleaner, the air filtration through classrooms would be much better than what it was with new and more efficient air handlers. So we did get some of that monies that we were entitled to be used for that particular part of the process. So that's speed up some of the replacements. Our overall goals with the project was a 60% reduction in electricity usage, 50% greenhouse gas, and another 40% in water. So the water is an interesting one because of the change you do to your restroom facilities. But even on the outside, when you have your lawn and your gardens and things like that, we went more to a natural let's just say setting for some of our
Mhm.
gardens with marigolds and so on. And people kept thinking, your campus is getting weedy. Why aren't you taking care of the weeds on your campus? Well, it takes a few years for that to happen. So we got a few comments with regards to they call it xeriscaping is what it was. But with the electricity target of 60%, that was where we're supposed to be in 2035. We're 25% ahead of that mark right now. So we're right around 42% reduction. So we have some to go on it, but we're ahead of the schedule. And the same thing with the greenhouse gas. And 50% we wanted to be at. We're at 42% on the greenhouse gas, where we were planning to be at this point in time around 35. So it's the results have been better, and Johnson Controls are meeting their guidelines. You mentioned manpower on this. I have a full-time person, works within facilities, works for our facilities director, who manages all of this, who deals with the energy, the training of the employees when new employees come on board. And he's also working directly with Johnson Controls, where we have a full-time person from Johnson Controls on site to, as I do the tweaks and the updates, and hey, this is the newest thing coming on board. Here's what the cost is. Here's what our payback is on this. This needs to be gone in some of the additional phasing.
Wow. That's just really, really impressive outcomes. So wonderful to hear that you're ahead of schedule in many cases. And what an impact. I just was thinking the campus is large. How big is that campus that you're managing there?
We're, the area, it's right off of Evergreen. It's,
Yeah.
just under 1 million square feet
Yeah.
is what it is. And there's some work being planned on a potential newer building and a renovation of a couple buildings. And with those buildings, we've already insisted with the architects that they tie in with the global efficiencies that we're looking at now, and the roof standards and so on, to centralize the development of this new building and the renovations of two other buildings into this same scenario. So it's taken seriously, not only with what currently exists, but what is coming forth as well. I mentioned the cogen units. A cogen unit, what it does is runs on natural gas, is what it ends up doing, but it serves as your, let's say, electricity, your heating, as an option, and also takes you off the grid if you have to. Say our power is interrupted from DTE due to a snowstorm or whatever it is. This will allow us to run on our own to a certain degree. And the heat that's generated off of the cogen units is also transferable and reusable across campus. Right now, it's set up for the tech building, which is where it's located. But the idea is to expand it so that we can, with our current centralized system and the I should say, the piping and the octopus piping that goes out to the other buildings, to be able to take advantage of that in the other buildings when you have issues of power. So, and then one of the cool things people are telling me about it too is when we expand the PV array system, there's a alternative of energy to be used in running it, in addition to, natural gas, to cut down on your consumption of natural gas, and using photovoltaics for operating the systems as well. I don't get too technical in it, but I know some of the key words. So if anybody asks how this all works, I'd have to bring on my the energy guy that we have has been here since the start of this project.
There's just hearing the description of all that you're working on. There's really a couple more questions that come to mind.
Okay.
You're really talking about something very comprehensive with lots of elements to it. And I'm sure that all rolls up to an energy master plan and, all of that. How do you go about making decisions and establishing priorities? Given that it sounds like you're doing everything all at once, but we know you can't possibly do everything all at once.
Yeah,
So how do you think about that?
think about that. Primarily, though, it deals with the payback
Okay.
on it, dealing with how is this going to reduce the consumption. Okay, Johnson Controls. Like I said, this is a partnership with Johnson Controls. What's the payback on this, and how does this, this will affect your guarantee, is what it is. So we're like I say, we're about 95% done with a major infrastructure investment. Another 5% to do, but then, like I say, there's always the new things coming on board. So they need to make their case that this, hey, this will have a payback within the next 8 to 10 years at this particular cost. Um, that's pretty much going forward with it. The college does have funds to do these things and fund them ahead of time, of course, but the payback on them is significant, significantly important. An example was we had in the original proposal, doing a lot of things with glass is what we ended up doing, replacing glass within buildings. And when you ran the numbers on it, and also putting in a bigger photo of a PV array system, the numbers that we ran on it were too far out in the future. We could do other things more quickly to save energy than by doing those things. Roof standardization, for example, would be one. Control units, controlling the availability of power and lights and so on within the individual buildings. We get more of that in the front end than we would in the others. Now we're taking a look at some of those other longer term things that will yield additional benefit, but didn't yield the significant reductions that you could see early on
Mm-hmm.
with
Mm-hmm.
things that were planned on with the cogen units, with the piping, with boilers, reduction of boilers, significant reduction. We've cut down on our boiler usage to 60% from what we had before. So transfer of power on that.
Yeah, it makes total sense. Total sense. So, given this incredible work that you're doing in a very short period of time at the college, how are you working to sort of establish those global best practices in energy management and education? It seems like you would have a lot to contribute to that conversation given the work that you've undertaken.
We've been we've been working with, bringing the city of Dearborn into this mix as well as Dearborn Public Schools. Probably a number of people don't know, or maybe a lot of people do know, that the board of education for Dearborn Public Schools is the same board that Henry Ford College has. It's elected by the citizens of Dearborn. Henry Ford College is the only college in the entire state that is specific to one city, uh, including Dearborn Heights, areas in Dearborn Heights as well, that exists in the state of Michigan. So we have one board. If you go to any other college or any other school system, uh, the board at Wayne County, or the board at Schoolcraft, or Oakland Community College does not service a K-12 district. So we're able to do that with one board and working with our K-12 folks. And part of the monies from the Stabenow and Senator Stabenow and Representative Dingell's categories, even though loved Representative Dingell, but she's not a part of our area anymore. I've known her and John forever, but it's the funding that we got from them helps us with developing the curriculum at the K-12 level as well, prior to admission into the college. So we're working on that curriculum exchange as well, and then with the city, working with the city to express to them what we have done. And the key factor behind the whole thing is it's, how should I say, how am I going to word this? It's guaranteed is what it is. You work with somebody like Johnson Controls, you work out the contract, you get the guarantee, you measure the results, and if they're hit their targets, so be it. If they don't, they have to make up the difference. So it's not a difficult decision to make at the front end when we in both colleges I was working at to get this undertaken. So the idea is to work with the community college, or the community college are working with more so with K-12 on this, as well as with the city.
So it's fascinating. It sounds like you're bullish on the role that educational organizations and institutions can play in advancing sustainability goals in a region like Southeast Michigan.
Yeah.
It sounds like you think there's more opportunity there for educational institutions to lead.
There is. This, what we're talking about here today, we have meeting this with all of our community college financial folks at our winter meeting coming up. This is one of the topics that they want to talk about. When I talk guarantee to them, their ears open up and they listen. How do you do that? I said, you just need to have the funding up front to do it, and then the guarantees come through just like a cash flow. So yes, I think there's more of it within the state of Michigan is coming. But there is one college, university in Canada, Sheridan College, which is west of London, or near London, Ontario, I believe, west of Toronto. Has been doing this as well, but they're a 4-year institution. So they've developed a 4-year curriculum, and we're working with them on the 3rd and 4th year, since we're only from the community colleges standpoint. They have their local city government in place on this as well. And the same consultant that I mentioned earlier, who's worked with me, is working with them on that. And they're coming along as far, if not a little bit further than what we are, but they're a 4-year institution. So curriculum development and getting the 4-year degree is also something we are looking at, and to get the approval to go forward on a 4-year degree.
Wow. Well, that is very exciting to hear. And it sounds like all of your work has positioned you well for that going forward. So John, before we wrap things up, I'm just curious, are there any other examples you can share of sustainability forward examples, so to speak, that you find inspiring in Detroit?
That's quite interesting. I think you see a more, let's just say, with the work that DTE and a number of folks, and the work that they've done with us on this conversion with the cogen units and our PV array, which is what's going to be put on our campus as well, has been a good working relationship with them. And I'd have to say too, our facilities with the Society of Engineers, we have a facility on campus that stands alone, that we own 100% of it. We're going to convert that. We're going to extend our centralized heating and cooling system to the facility, because it runs on its own right now. It has its own boilers, it has its own HVAC systems, and so on. So the idea is to move K-12 into that facility. One for two, there's 4 buildings, into 2 of the buildings. We would retain one of the buildings associated with it, but the idea is to convert that outstanding in its area to the same process.
Mhm.
Now, with cogeneration, more and more of that, as not only for education but for generating the electricity and the energy that we're talking about. That's something that can be transferable across the various regions. I mean, you look at Dearborn Public Schools. They have a heck of a lot more buildings that we do, but they're spread out is what they are. So you'd really need to look at where they have some of their clusters, how you can deal with some of the bigger buildings or the newer buildings that they have on board to go forward on dealing with that.
Well, I think that there's so many inspiring examples in our region, and I know that if any one of our listeners wanted to reach out to you to help connect them, I'm sure you would. Um,
Sure.
John, thank you so much for spending time with us today on the Green Stream, and congratulations on your big goals and your big success. And we look forward to hearing more stories to come.
Appreciate it. I'm glad to be part of this, and glad to hear about your mission on in the other areas and the sustainability and how we can make Detroit and the area a better place to be.
Thanks, everyone, for joining us.
Thank you for tuning in to the Sustainable Business Network Detroit, the Green Stream podcast. Remember to like, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to podcasts. Make sure to follow us on SBN-Detroit.org and stay tuned for more conversations on sustainability from inside and around the city.